What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bucko Territory, presented to you by the Foul Territory Network. My name is Noah Hiles, and joining me, as always, are my co-hosts Josh Harrison and Platinum Key, aka Mark. It is our first ever mailbag show here on Bucko Territory. Very excited to get into a couple of the questions that you guys sent in. We appreciate the feedback. We had a lot to choose from. I apologize that we're not going to get it to everyone's. We only have so many minutes to record on this show, but keep sending them in. And the nice thing is with spring training, a lot of these questions are evergreen. So we'll be able to use some of these leftover ones for future shows to come. But keep commenting below on questions you want us to answer. So we can get into them right now, guys, unless you have any opening remarks before we start the mailbag here.
No, I'm excited. Let's get into these questions.
Yeah, I was about to say I got none. Let's go.
All right, Jordan starts us off. He asks, if the Pirates keep Joey Bart, do you see Endy making the roster and flexible in positions on the field or just getting sent down? I personally want to trade Bart and just have Endy and Davis rotate the catcher position. Now, that's interesting. I don't know if that's in the Pirates' best interest. I'm going to start off by answering this one just because, Endy's had 2 arm surgeries now in the last 3 years. That's not good news for any baseball player, especially a catcher. I'm not giving up on Endy as a baseball player by any means. This is a guy who's played first base. He played second base in the minor leagues as well. The switch hitting component to his game is certainly unique. But when you look at this catcher situation, you're not going to expect to get a ton of offense from Henry Davis, and he's absolutely making this team. So right now, I think Bart probably makes the most sense to be the backup. Because he can hit left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
And there's your platoon guy right there. He's someone that you can probably start on games where Paul is not pitching, Paul or Bubba. Those are the 2 guys I expect Henry to catch primarily. But yeah, I think down the line, Endy's probably the better long-term, him or Ro Flores, to be the backup to Henry, if not replace Henry, to be the primary guy if they can hit consistently. But as things currently stand, I think Endy probably starts the year in the minor leagues and should, considering all that he's been through injury-wise over these last couple seasons. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, there's no player who's more fun than Endy Rodriguez. He's just pure, just like joy. Loves the game. Just great clubhouse guy. So any way that they can get Endy on this team would be great. I don't foresee it being the opening day roster. Especially just with the injuries last year. And I don't really anticipate him being the answer at backup catcher. I think they start with Davis and Bart, assuming Bart isn't traded. I think there's a little bit of smoke going on with that right now where it makes sense to trade Joey Bart. And I think you can look at the acquisition of Rafael Flores as kind of just an indication of where the Pirates view Endy Rodriguez right now. Because they went out and traded for Flores after they traded Bednar. That was after they knew that Endy was already hurt. So, maybe they're just saying we're acquiring another young catcher that we can see as a backup just in case Endy doesn't have the durability to stick behind the plate. And we have seen Endy show off the versatility. He's played first. He was the opening day first baseman last year.
Yeah.
He's played second in the minors, so he can bounce around. There's still value that he brings. And if he's the third emergency catcher, that's great. But I just don't anticipate him being much of a backup moving forward.
Josh, I want to pick your brain on the 4th catcher here, Rafael Flores. This is a guy, he was the headliner in the David Bednar trade. He's the youngest among this group. He's a guy who hit 22 home runs in the minor leagues last year and is one of the top prospects now in the Pirate system. As someone who's been a part of, a log jam, though, when you look at the guys ahead of you, and none of them are necessarily complete players. Like they do certain things well, like Davis is a great defender. Endy being the switch hitting guy who is a high-rated prospect but can't stay healthy. Joey Bart being the guy who's a platoon matchup, hits lefties well. How would you be approaching this spring if you're Rafael Flores, who's the number 4 guy, but might have the highest ceiling out of all of them?
He's in a good situation. From his standpoint, one, he was traded. So, he's traded for a pretty big piece. So I don't think that's anything to take lightly. And listening to the situation, with Indy, we talk about it all the time, being able to have depth. And Indy being able to bounce around, as you mentioned, he was the opening day first baseman last year. Has played some second base, has bounced around, but also given the 2 arm surgeries, also probably gives them an opportunity to say, they can take it slow with him and not really try to put too much on him. But at the same time, you got Flores, a younger guy that you bring in that can also push the competition forward. Because at the end of the day, health is one thing that keeps you on the field, and it's also keeps you off the field. And Indy having his injuries, that's just something where when Bednar was traded, they were able to, as you said, find a young catching prospect that, can potentially make his way, into the big leagues, whether it's the backup or, taking over for the future. And that's not to say that, they've given up on Indy, but I think it allows them to be able to approach him and, allow him to start in AAA if he's going to do that. If they really want him to be a catcher, it might be valuable for him to go down and really, get those innings, if that's the case. But as you said, there's smoke with Joey's name, Joey Bart. That could be smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire, but it could also be put out. Spring training season, anything can happen. But, I think if I was Indy, main thing is being healthy and let the rest happen. And, versatility is a good thing.
Absolutely. All right. What's our next question, Mark? This one comes from Jung Ho Fan. Great Twitter name there. Is there a world where Clevinger makes this team? Mike Clevinger, a non-roster invite, obviously a veteran guy who played for the Guardians, the White Sox, played elsewhere as well. Not on the 40-man roster right now. We had the privilege of watching him. We were able to watch him pitch on Monday. It was a privilege. Every day is a privilege, right? But on Monday, he pitched. He looked pretty good, honestly, against the Rays. It was just one outing. But I don't hate the idea of Mike Clevinger making this team. And my stance on that is simply because, if everyone stays healthy in spring, then yeah, probably not. But if someone has to get 60-dayed, and I've said this before in this show, your number 5 starter is Jared Jones or Hunter Barco. And those are probably your number 4 and 5 starters. And someone in the rotation might actually get moved back to the bullpen because those two guys have crazy upside and they're both going to be contributors to this team. So the number 5 starter that breaks camp, you're going to need him to give you 2 months of action. And Clevinger's not the worst option to do that. Personally, I think they'd be better off keeping that as like a platoon spot. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of like planning to do a whole bullpen game for an entire season one way through the rotation. But if you can get by doing that for a couple of months, I think, especially when you have 3 or 4 guys who are in that tweener camp of, hey, they have experience starting games. They also have experience pitching out of the bullpen, being those long relief guys. I think if you have 4 true starters breaking camp and then 3 of those guys in your bullpen, you can shuffle it around to where if they're stretched out enough to get, you ask Carmen to get you through the lineup once, Clevinger to get you through the lineup once or twice, you're already in the 7th or 8th inning there. And you also look at how this roster's formed right now. Paul Skeens, bullpen's not doing a lot of work on most of the days he's pitching. Mitch Keller, same thing. Keller, even on his bad days, he gives you length. So 2 of your 5 start days, your bullpen has a pretty low maintenance day. So I think, again, it'd be gutsy, ambitious, kind of foolish to try to plan on doing a bullpen game once every 5 days for a whole season. But I think in April, when no one's really stretched out anyway, you can get by with that. And then when you get to May, you're just counting down until Jared and Barco are back. And heck, between Urquidy and Clevinger or whoever else they have there, maybe someone establishes themselves as worthy of being an actual starter. And if not, just hold down the fort. So Clevinger, probably not my first option, but I think he's probably the best true, if you're looking for a true traditional 5th starter, he's not a bad pick to get you through 2 months. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. You've mentioned before on this show how the Pirates with their young pitching prospects like to kind of build them up in the minors, and then
Slow
once
cooking.
once they're finally ready to go, bring them up. Clevenger's the perfect guy to just have up on the team in that starting role while Barco's getting ready, while Jared Jones is rehabbing. And then once they're ready, you can let him go, or you can kick him to the bullpen, or trade him, or whatever.
Or you can have an honest conversation with them and be like,
Right.
look, if you deserve to be here, we'll find a spot for you.
Right.
You know, like someone's going to get hurt, and it might be 15-day IL or whatever, but it's like, if you're good, they'll find a spot for you.
Exactly.
But if you're not, you're what we paid for. You're a
Right.
You're a fill-in.
Yeah, you're on a minor league
substitute
contract
pitcher.
right now. Yeah.
So-
And so, I mean, I think him and Urquidy are kind of battling for that veteran role of innings eater early in the year. And I think Clevenger might just be a little disadvantaged with not being on the 40-man. So if there's an injury, maybe that helps him. Maybe he's the first guy added to the 40-man. But as it stands right now, I think Urquidy's kind of got the advantage with that.
Josh, you faced Clevenger a few times in your career. What does he bring to the table? And from what you remember in those matchups, how do you think his game can age and translate into this point in his career?
I mean, talk about a guy that's been around the league. So when you speaking of that fifth spot, sometimes you want it to be a guy that's been around that understands the importance of going out there and, you know, I'm giving you what I got. And Clevenger has showed cases in the past of, having good days and having good stuff. I don't know if he's necessarily that pitcher anymore, but that's not to say that he can't go get outs, because I mean he's still pitching, he's still out there, able to get jobs. And I think more of it is just, as you said, he's the odd man out being off the roster, but we all know that anything can happen, injuries happen, or he could pitch his way into a roster spot.
Right.
I've seen it happen before. Guys, they, as you said, they'll create a spot for you if you're producing. And who knows what the first part of the season is like, because that fifth starter spot does give you a little bit of leeway, especially early in the year where sometimes there are a few more off days built in. There are potential for rainouts or makeup games to where that fifth starter is almost going to be one of those, hey, this game really got banged because it's going to be rescheduled in August, or this game got banged and it's pushed back a day because we had an off day built in. So guys like that will be able to, as you said, the first 60 games you might need somebody that's able to step in. And while Urquidy might have the inside track, that doesn't mean that something may happen down the line and both he and Clevenger both swing start on the fifth, one in maybe one in the pen, but I don't think off the rip he's got a spot, but I think some things have to happen. But I mean, I think if he pitches well, he's going to put them in a position to say, hey, we're going to add you, or I don't know if he has an out built in, because some people have outs built in.
Yeah,
it might be like July or something around there. Yeah,
July or some guys will have 2 outs. I didn't know if some guys had one before spring, and I was like, it might be a case where they're like, hey, go down to AAA for the first month. These are all things, but realistically, he's got to pitch well, and the other day was a good outing for him. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I think one more thing just on Clevenger. I mean, they have a very young rotation, so it's not the worst idea to have a guy who has been. I mean, Clevenger was pitching a part of some of the best rotations of his era. So he's seen what it looks like to basically what the Pirates are trying to emulate that formula. Create a dream rotation, have a couple of boppers, and just solid players around, and you can win a lot of ball games, as we've seen, especially when you play in a Central Division where the payrolls aren't super high. All right, next question. Let's get into it. What do we got here?
And this one is going to be sponsored actually by Fox One. Yeah.
All of our World Baseball Classic coverage is brought to you by our friends at Fox One, which is live. Stream all of your Fox favorites together in one place, including all World Baseball Classic games over the next few weeks. And after that, the best MLB action all season long. All right, so our World Baseball Classic question for today's show comes from Darren. He wants to know, does the World Baseball Classic affect the Pirates Grapefruit League lineups? And Darren, he's not sugarcoating it. He's getting to the point that everyone wants to know. More Connor Griffin, question mark. If Pirates fans had their druthers, Connor Griffin would be playing a triple header every day, and he would be batting 1 through 9, playing every position. He'd be juggling, selling hot dogs, and writing my stories for me in the meantime, too. I mean, I get it. He's young. He's 19. But, you know what? We're going to start with Josh here. Josh, and he might be the only one who needs to answer this question. Can you give us a little insight on how spring training lineups are constructed?
Oh, for sure. Definitely not a modern day Bugs Bunny, as you just said. Noah playing all 9 positions. But realistically, it's built based off of roster, positions, obviously injuries too. You know, those factor in day-to-day things that guys go through. You know, they're keeping track of guys at bats, how many innings they throw, how many pitches they throw. With all the, you know, technology we have, you know, they're also keeping track of, you know, how much these guys have been on their feet. Spring training is to get you ready for the season and the postseason, so you can't run guys ragged, but you also got to work towards the season. So your question of more Connor Griffin question mark is going to be no, not in a bad way, but you know what it means for the World Baseball Classic. Obviously, some rosters are going to be affected because, you know, a lot of guys are gone from their spring training team, you know, spring training facility playing. So what you will see, you won't see more Connor Griffin, but you will see more NASCAR helmets. That is the double-sided ear flap, number 97 with no number on the back of his jersey. So you're going to see a lot more of those guys, which doesn't mean that these guys can't play. You know, it's just these guys are going to get an opportunity to play in Major League spring training games because some guys, you know, are playing in the WBC. And, you know, while you would want to see more Connor Griffin, there's going to come a time and point for that. But, you know, the main goal is to get to the season healthy. And just because guys are gone, they don't want to put more on Connor Griffin. You know, as I said, that's going to allow for the double ear flap, the NASCAR helmet to come up. And, you know, those guys get a chance to play. You know, we were all there at one point. I think last year Connor was one of the double ear flap. You know, you know, Connor was a NASCAR helmet last year. So, you know, it comes full circle. So there you have it.
Yeah, on the note of NASCAR, you can watch that on Fox. From the World Baseball Classic through the World Series to the World Cup to NASCAR and IndyCar with Fox One, you'll get it all live. Start your 7-day free trial today. Offers subject to change. Download Fox One today and stream the World Baseball Classic live from March 6th through 14th. Go to fox1.com for complete terms and conditions. Fox One, streaming now. All right, final question for our mailbag here. What do we got here, Mark? Pull it up. Let me see. This comes from Nathan. Do you think the Pirates would prioritize a 5th outfield spot, likely Garcia, or an infielder for depth, particularly behind Triolo, or like a York or Valdez for that last roster spot? I like this question. I think something that people forget is that when you're constructing the roster, one of those outfield spots is Ozuna. Like, he's not an outfielder, but when you have a primary DH, that's taking that spot. So, but like the final roster spot, yeah, it's going to come down to, I think, probably York or Gonzalez. Or no, York or Valdez, I should say. I think Gonzalez is a lock to make the team. Just because the outfield's already kind of crowded as is, and I think Garcia absolutely has played. His play's been worthy of making the team, but he's so young. And Josh, you probably have seen a lot of this. When you're a young prospect, you don't have a lot of big league service time. They're going to prioritize you playing every day. And if that can't happen in the major leagues right now, especially when you have 3 key guys being your primary outfielders with O'Hearn, Reynolds, and Cruz, you're going to start that guy in AAA until you need him to play every day. Does that make sense to you, Josh?
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's a young guy. He was traded over, meaning like they see a lot of value. They traded for him. And the last thing they want to do is to have him, you know, in the major leagues in a bench role as a young guy, not playing, not developing. Right. You know, where he can be down in AAA, you know, getting those reps, getting those ABs, playing well, and you know, force his way onto the roster, you know, in the big leagues. But at the same time, you know, things happen. You go down there, they're going to need you at some point. We know this game is full of injuries, but I agree with you. Know, it doesn't make sense to have, you know, young guy like that when you already got the outfield pretty much secure. You want him to be able to play.
Mark, what about you? You can finish us off here. Like, who do you think is this last roster spot?
Yeah, I think you want to have Jake Mangum simply because of what he can do defensively. He's a great guy to bring in like the seventh inning for that speed defense combo. He can hit
Switch hitter,
lefties
too.
as well. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that's where I would go. And that's not a knock on Joe Stinson. He's having a fantastic spring, but the corner outfield right now, you look at it and there's two all-stars in Brian Reynolds and Ryan O'Hearn right now. This isn't your like typical Pirates team of the last few years where I think Garcia would be starting on any of those opening day rosters. But a vastly improved team, less roster spots, got to keep them in AAA to start, I think, just for those everyday opportunities. And then when rosters expand come September, give him a shot and see where he's at. And maybe he's going to be a contributor for the playoff push.
Awesome. All right, well, that'll wrap up our mailbag show for today. I want to remind everyone to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're on a mission to 3,000 subs. We can't get there without your help. So hit that subscribe button to Bucko Territory. We really appreciate it. Also want to remind everyone to check out our Bucko Territory store. Here we go. Let's recite it off memory. We've got
Sure.
the t-shirt. We've got the hoodie. What's coming next? Is it the hat?
The hat.
There it is.
Where's the
I believe
bag?
another
Where's the
hat.
bag?
Or is it the gym bag? Gym bag.
Yeah.
There it is.
And then we got the mug.
And we have the
Everyone's
coffee
favorite.
Mug.
Everyone
Yeah.
loves a coffee mug. Tell me
Then
how
we
much
got the
you love
hat, the
coffee mug
snapback,
in there.
right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
did we miss
there we
that?
go.
I cut it too early. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
All right. Fellas, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
World Baseball Classic starting this Friday. So Friday night, 8 p.m. Team USA's first game. And then Paul Skeens will be pitching against Mexico coming up here. I think that's Tuesday, I want to say. The 10th or something? I can't remember.
I
But
believe so, yeah.
Whatever.
He's got game 3, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Brazil, and then Great Britain will be Skubal, and then Skeens is starting game 3 against Mexico. So should be pretty fun. So any other final thoughts, Josh?
Other than it's been cool to see, spring training games, even, seeing some of the, classic teams doing exhibition games. So excited to see some of those, and as pool play and stuff gets here, next thing we know, we're gonna be talking about opening day. So it's gonna go quick. We're already in March, so
Can't wait.
I'm excited to see what the boys gonna do for Team USA. Excited to see Paul pitch on the 10th and
Bednar, yeah.
Yeah.
right. Oh yeah, that's right. He is there.
Yeah.
So, my final thoughts, I'm excited to enjoy a nice summer night in Bradenton. I'm going to drop Josh Harrison's name in every bar I go to, and I'm going to get VIP access because of it. So that's my plan. All right. So on behalf of Platinum Key and Josh, I'm Noah Hiles. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bucko Territory, presented to you by the Foul Territory Network.